The expiration date stared back at her from the top of the form. 3 weeks. 21 days before she became illegal, invisible, deportable. She'd been in Seoul 2 years, built a life from nothing, learned the language until strangers mistook her for a longtime resident, found work translating for a language academy that paid just enough to keep her fed and housed in this concrete box with its leaking faucet and paper-thin walls. The academy closed 2 months ago. The owner vanished with the last payroll. Naomi hadn't told anyone. Her phone sat face down on the mattress. 14 unread messages from Derek. She didn't need to read them. She knew the arc by heart. The first few would be sweet. Baby, I miss you. Then wounded. You can't just disappear on me. Then the turn. You think you can hide from me? I'll find you. I always find you. She'd blocked his number 6 times. He always got a new one. She picked up the phone, blocked it again, and set it back down. Her fingers were steady. Her stomach was not. She thought about going back to the States. The thought made her physically sick because Derek was there, and the restraining order she'd filed had expired. And the last time she'd seen him, he'd put her in a hospital bed with a fractured orbital bone and told the nurses she'd fallen down the stairs. Seoul was supposed to be far enough. For 2 years it had been. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Then she read the message. This is Kang Seo-jun. Hana drew 4 more pictures of you tonight. She hasn't drawn anything in months. She won't let go of the one you touched. Naomi stared at the screen. 3 dots appeared. Another message. I don't ask for favors. But I'm asking now. She typed back before she could overthink it. What do you need? His reply came in seconds. Come see her, tomorrow. That's all. She looked around her apartment. The cracked ceiling, the water-stained shape like a fist, the suitcase she hadn't fully unpacked because some part of her always expected to run again. Fine, she typed, but just for her. The address he sent was in Hanam-dong, the most expensive neighborhood in Seoul. She looked down at her scuffed sneakers and worn jeans. Then she stood up. The Kang estate didn't look like a mansion. It looked like a fortress. High concrete walls topped with cameras. A steel gate that opened without anyone touching it, like the house itself had decided to let her in. 2 men in dark suits flanked the entrance. Faces blank, hands clasped. They didn't speak, they didn't need to. But inside, the fortress was warm. Wooden floors the color of honey, natural light pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows, and taped to the refrigerator in the massive kitchen, held up by mismatched magnets, a dozen crayon drawings in a child's hand. Suns and flowers and 1 brown-skinned woman repeated in every frame. Hana came running before Naomi had taken 5 steps, arms wide, bare feet slapping against the wood. She crashed into Naomi's legs and held on with a grip that said everything her voice couldn't. Naomi knelt and hugged her back. The girl smelled like soap and crayons. Seo-jun stood at the end of the hallway, arms crossed, watching. She's been waiting by the door since 6 a.m., he said. His voice was neutral, his eyes were not. He led her to his study. Hana followed, one hand locked around Naomi's finger. Seo-jun sat behind a desk made of dark wood, hands folded. He didn't waste time. Hana hasn't spoken since her mother's death. 14 months. We've tried everything. Therapists, specialists. Play therapy, art therapy, music therapy, nothing. He paused. Then you walked into a restaurant and she crossed 2 floors to hand you a drawing. Naomi said nothing. She felt Hana's small fingers tighten around hers. I want you to stay here, he continued. Guest wing, private quarters, be her companion, read to her, sit with her. Whatever you did in that restaurant, do it again. He leaned forward. In return, you'll receive a salary, visa sponsorship through Kang Holdings' legitimate operations, and security. Naomi frowned. Security? Your ex-boyfriend has booked 3 flights to Seoul in the last 2 years. He canceled each one. Seo-jun's gaze was level. He won't cancel forever. Her blood ran cold. How do you know about Derek? I know about everyone who enters my world. Silence stretched between them. Hana tugged Naomi's hand, pulling her toward the hallway, impatient with adult conversation. Naomi's chin lifted. I'm not a charity case. I work for what I earn. Something shifted in his expression, not a smile, closer to recognition. Then earn it, he said quietly. Make my daughter speak again. 3 days, and she found a rhythm. Mornings in the sunlit library, Naomi writing aloud from picture books, while Hannah sat pressed against her side, eyes tracking every word, lips sometimes moving without sound, forming shapes she couldn't yet release. Afternoons in the garden, Hannah drawing while Naomi narrated stories, inventing adventures about brave girls who crossed oceans and fought monsters made of shadow. Evenings curled together on the couch, Hannah's head in Naomi's lap during movies, small fingers wrapped around Naomi's thumb like an anchor. One night, Hannah took Naomi's hand and placed it flat against her own chest, over her heart. She looked up with those enormous eyes and held it there. Naomi's eyes filled. "I feel it," she whispered, strong and steady. Hannah nodded once. Then she closed her eyes and fell asleep with Naomi's hand still pressed against the beat. Later that evening, Naomi found Seo-jun in his study. The door was open. He stood at the window, back to her, staring at a framed photograph on the sill. A woman with Hannah's eyes and a smile that looked like it could light a room on fire. He didn't startle when Naomi appeared, just glanced over his shoulder. "She would have liked you," he said. Then quieter, "Hannah has her smile. I see it sometimes now, when she's with you." Naomi didn't respond. She didn't need to. He turned back to the window. "Thank you." Simple, sincere. Like the words cost him something he wasn't used to spending. The video surfaced on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, it had 4 million views. Someone at the restaurant had filmed the entire incident. The waiter's sneer, Naomi's composure, Hannah's silent crossing of the dining room, and Seojun's dissent. The way the room died when he spoke. The 2 words that ended a man's career. The clip was everywhere. Korean news networks ran it on a loop. International outlets picked it up. The comment section split like a wound. Half celebrated the mystery protector, half wanted to know who the black woman was and why a known underworld figure had intervened on her behalf. The ugliest comments called her things she'd heard before. Kept woman, gold digger, worse. Naomi scrolled through them on her phone in the guest suite, stomach turning, until the words blurred together into a single wall of noise. If you believe everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, regardless of where they come from, show your support. Like, subscribe, and share this story so more people can hear it. In Chicago, Derek Marshall watched the video on his cracked phone screen in a dim apartment that smelled like stale beer and old anger. He watched it 3 times. He recognized Naomi in the first frame. By the third replay, he'd noted the car, the compound gates visible in a follow-up paparazzi shot, the neighborhood. Hanam-dong. He booked a flight, one way. Elder Kang arrived at the compound the next morning without warning. Kang Dae-ho. Silver-haired, rigid-spined, eyes like winter. Seo-jun's uncle and the organization's second in command for 30 years. He walked past Naomi in the foyer without acknowledging her existence. Like she was furniture, like she was less than furniture. He and Seo-jun disappeared into the study. The door closed, but the walls in the hallway were thinner than they looked. Naomi heard everything. "You're harboring a foreigner. A nobody." Daeho's voice was sharp and controlled. "The Park faction is watching. The council is questioning your judgment. Every rival we have is circling because they smell weakness. Get rid of her before she becomes a weapon they use against you." Seo-jun's reply was ice. "She's helping my daughter." "Your daughter needs a proper Korean caretaker, not some American woman who..." "Touch the subject again and you'll find yourself retired." Silence, then footsteps. The door opened. Daeho emerged, face rigid. He stopped in front of Naomi in the hallway, close enough she could smell his cologne. Old-fashioned, bitter. "You're temporary," he said softly. "Remember that." Naomi held his gaze. "So was the last person who underestimated me." He left without another word, but his eyes lingered in a way that made her skin crawl. That evening, the compound felt quieter than usual. Seo-jun had been on calls all afternoon. Security shifted rotations twice. Something was moving in the background, something Naomi couldn't see but could feel, the way you feel a storm before the sky changes. She pushed it aside. Hannah needed her. They were in the library, their place. Naomi was reading aloud from a picture book about a girl who sailed across an ocean in a paper boat and found a new home on the other side. Hannah sat curled against her, eyes wide, fingers tracing the illustrations. Naomi finished a page, turned it, waited for Hannah to nod so she could continue. Silence. Then so soft that Naomi almost missed it, a sound, a word. The first word Hannah had spoken in 14 months. More. Naomi's hands went still. Hannah looked up at her. Her lips moved again, deliberate, effortful, pushing the single syllable through a wall of silence that had held for over a year. More. Naomi's breath caught. Her fingers trembled against the page. She couldn't cry. Not yet. Not in front of this girl who had just done the bravest thing Naomi had ever witnessed. She swallowed the knot in her throat, turned the page, and kept her voice steady. Okay, baby. More. She didn't see Seojun in the doorway, but he was there. He'd heard. His hand gripped the doorframe so hard his knuckles went white. His jaw worked. He didn't make a sound. After Hannah fell asleep, Naomi made it to the kitchen before the tears came. She stood at the counter, hands braced against the marble, shoulders shaking. Silent, furious crying, the kind that comes when something locked inside you finally breaks open. Seojun found her there. He didn't speak. He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides, pulled her against his chest, and held her. His arms were tight. His heartbeat was rapid through his shirt, unsteady, nothing like the controlled man who made restaurants go silent. He was shaking too. They stood like that for a long time. Long enough for her breathing to slow. Long enough for his to match it. She pulled back first, wiped her face. Sorry. Don't. She looked up at him. His eyes were red. Kang Seo-jun, the man Sol feared, standing in his kitchen at midnight with wet eyes because his daughter had said one word. I built every wall after Yuna died, he said. His voice was rough, stripped of the authority he wore like armor. Higher, harder. I told myself it was for Hana, for the organization, for survival. Then you walked in from a restaurant, and my daughter speaks for the first time in 14 months, and suddenly every wall feels like paper. Naomi shook her head. I'm just a translator who can't even keep a visa. You're more than that. His voice dropped. And you know it. He reached out, slow, giving her time to step back. He tucked a log behind her ear. His thumb traced her jawline, light, deliberate. His skin was warm against hers. She leaned into it. He kissed her. Slow, careful, like he was testing whether the ground would hold. She kissed him back, deeper. Her fingers slid into his hair. His hand cupped the back of her neck, pulling her closer. The kiss tasted like salt and something that had been locked away too long. His phone buzzed on the counter, sharp, insistent. He pulled back, breathing hard, grabbed it. His expression changed instantly, warmth replaced by cold focus. Security alert, east perimeter. He was gone before she could speak. Naomi stood alone in the kitchen, heart hammering, lips still warm. Her phone lit up on the counter. Unknown number. She opened the message. I see you found someone new. That won't last, I'm coming. Derek landed in Incheon on a Thursday morning. By Thursday afternoon, he was standing at the compound gate screaming Naomi's name. Security held him without touching him. 4 men in dark suits forming a wall of silence and muscle. Derek paced behind the iron bars, face twisted, veins standing out in his neck. That's my woman in there. You hear me? She's mine. I'll call the embassy. I'll call the police. I'll burn this whole place down. Naomi watched on the security monitor in the front hall, her hands curled into fists at her sides. Seojun appeared beside her. He studied the screen the way a surgeon studies an X-ray. Clinical, precise. Say the word and he disappears, he said quietly. She shook her head. No, I handle my own ghosts. She walked out to the gate. The afternoon sun hit her face. Derek saw her, and his expression shifted, rage layered over something uglier. Possession? Naomi, baby, listen to me. Go home, Derek. You don't get to leave me and play house with some gangster in a foreign country. I left you because you put me in a hospital twice. Her voice was flat, steady, the voice of a woman who'd rehearsed these words in the dark for 2 years and never expected to say them to his face. Go home, or I file every report I should have filed 3 years ago. He flinched. His mouth opened. Nothing came. She turned her back, walked inside, didn't look back. Her hands were shaking. She shoved them into her pockets so no one would see. But the danger wasn't Derek alone, not anymore. Word reached Park Jae-won within hours. The Kang girl was speaking. One word, but one word was a crack in a dam. And Park Jae-won knew what happened when dams cracked. If Hana recovered fully, if her voice came back completely, she could identify him as the man who'd ordered her mother killed. She'd been in the room. She'd seen his face. His solution was clean. Remove the catalyst, remove the woman, and the girl goes silent again. He dispatched men to watch the compound. They photographed Naomi leaving for groceries. They tracked her phone signal, and then they found Derek. Alone in an Itaewon bar, drunk, raging, desperate. They sat down across from him and made him an offer. Seojun's head of security brought the report the same night. Encrypted messages traced from Elder Kang's personal phone to a number linked to Park faction intermediaries. Compound security rotation schedules, Hana's therapy appointments, Naomi's daily movements, all sent from inside the house. Seojun read the report in his study. His face went gray. "My own uncle," he said. The pressure built across 3 days. Territorial disputes flaring at the southern docks. Park faction provocations along the Gangnam corridor. 2 of Seojun's lieutenants questioned his focus in a meeting Naomi wasn't supposed to know about, but heard through the study door. Hana's therapist warned that recovery was fragile, a house of cards. Any disruption, any emotional shock, and the silence could return permanently. Seojun cracked on the 3rd night. Naomi was coming down the hallway when he rounded the corner, phone in hand, jaw tight enough to shatter. He saw her and something broke behind his eyes. "Every threat traces back to you," he said. "Every vulnerability we have started when you walked through that door." The words landed like a closed fist. Naomi didn't flinch. She stood perfectly still and looked at him with eyes that had absorbed worse from men who were supposed to love her. "You're right," she said quietly. She turned toward her room. She was packing when Hannah appeared in the doorway. Small frame, enormous eyes. She looked at the open suitcase on the bed. She looked at the clothes folded inside it, her face crumpled. Naomi knelt. "Hey, baby, I have to go for a little while." Hannah opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The word she'd found, the word that had broken 14 months of silence, was gone again. She grabbed Naomi's sleeve with both hands and pulled, desperate, mute, her whole body straining against a departure she couldn't argue against because the words had left her again. Naomi's chest cracked open. She looked up. Seojun stood in the hallway behind Hana. He'd followed. He saw it, the silence returning, the light draining from his daughter's eyes like water through open fingers. His face collapsed. "Don't go!" His voice broke on the second word. "I'm sorry, I was terrified, and I took it out on the one person holding us together." Naomi's jaw tightened. "You hurt me." "I know. Don't do it again." "I won't." Hana looked between them. Then she grabbed both their hands, one in each of hers, and forced their fingers together. She pressed their joined hands against her chest, over her heart, the same place she'd put Naomi's hand weeks ago. She looked up at them, eyes fierce and wet. Then, with visible effort, pushing the word up through 14 months of darkness like a plant breaking concrete, she spoke. "Stay." If this story is touching your heart, please like and subscribe so more people can hear it. Naomi squeezed Hana's hand, then Seojun's. She looked at the suitcase, then at the girl who'd just spoken her second word to stop her from leaving. She stayed. Her phone buzzed that night. Security team. "Ma'am, Derek Marshall was seen entering a building associated with the Park faction 2 hours ago. He wasn't alone. The attack came at 3 a.m. on a Sunday. The compound's east side cameras went dark at 2:47. 13 minutes of blindness, enough time for 3 armed men to slip through the service entrance, using security rotation gaps that only someone inside the organization could have provided. Derek was with them, not as muscle, as bait." He knocked on the guest wing door, soft, pleading, the voice he always used after. "Naomi, please, I just want to talk. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." Naomi was awake. She'd been awake since the cameras flickered on the bedside monitor Seojun had installed after the perimeter breach. She didn't answer. She moved to Hannah's adjoining room, lifted the sleeping girl without waking her, carried her to the bathroom, locked the reinforced door, and pressed the silent alarm. Derek's knocking grew louder. Naomi, open the door. Don't make this harder than it has to be. One of Park's men knelt at the lock with a bypass tool. The mechanism clicked. The door swung open. The hallway behind it was empty. Seo Jun arrived in under 2 minutes. He moved like something between a man and a weapon, controlled violence in every stride. His men fanned out behind him, silent, efficient. He reached the guest wing and found Derek standing in the empty room, confused, turning in circles. Seojun didn't announce himself. He took Derek down in 3 seconds, arm locked behind his back, face pressed to the hardwood floor. One of Park's men lunged. Seojun's bodyguard intercepted without a sound. The third man ran. He made it 6 steps before 2 more guards materialized from the shadows and pinned him to the wall. Seojun leaned close to Derek's ear. His voice was so quiet it barely disturbed the air. You came into my home. You came for my family. Derek whimpered. His arm twisted further. Seojun looked at his head of security. Police. All of them. Now. He stood, straightened his shirt, crossed to the bathroom door and knocked gently. Naomi, it's me. It's over. The lock turned. Naomi stood in the doorway, Hannah cradled against her chest. The girl was awake now, trembling, face buried in Naomi's neck. Seojun dropped to his knees in front of them. Are you hurt? Naomi shook her head. Hannah lifted her face. She looked at her father. Then she looked past him, at the men on the floor, at the guards holding them down. Her eyes went wide, not with fear, with recognition. She pointed at one of Park's men, the one who'd been working the lock, and she spoke, clear, steady. 6 words that shattered 14 months of silence completely and permanently. The bad man hurt Mommy, too. Every person in the hallway froze. Hannah's hand was still raised, finger pointing. Her voice came again, stronger, shaking but certain. He was there. I saw him. Seojun's face went white. Then something behind his eyes caught fire. He pulled Hannah from Naomi's arms and held her against his chest, one hand cradling the back of her head. I believe you, baby, he whispered. I believe you. He looked at Naomi over his daughter's hair. His eyes were glassy. She spoke. Naomi nodded, tears streaming. She spoke. They took Hannah to the hospital. Precautionary. She was calm by the time they arrived, curled between them in the back seat, holding both their hands. The doctors checked her vitals, ran scans, confirmed what Naomi already knew. There was nothing wrong with Hannah's voice. There never had been. The block was gone, broken open by a moment of recognition, a moment of truth that her silence had been holding prisoner for over a year. In the private waiting room, after Hannah fell asleep on the examination bed under warm blankets, Seojun paced. Then he stopped, turned to Naomi. I almost lost you both because I was too proud to see the traitor in my own house. Naomi looked up at him. You didn't lose us. Every wall I built was supposed to protect her. He crossed the room, crouched in front of her chair, and took her hands. You walked through all of them. No weapons, no army, just you. She looked at their hands. His were scarred across the knuckles. Hers was still shaking. I love you, he said. The words came out rough, like they'd been locked behind his ribs for months and broke something on the way out. Not because you make my daughter speak. Because you make me believe people don't just take. Some of them stay. Naomi cupped his face with both hands. I love you too. She paused. But if you ever push me away again, I won't. I'll let Hannah deal with you. She's scarier than the Park faction. He laughed, rough, wet, real. The first laugh she'd heard from him. It cracked his whole face open and made him look 10 years younger. She kissed him, slow and deep and certain. By morning, the pieces fell like dominoes. Elder Kang was delivered to Seojun in handcuffs by his own security team. Seojun didn't speak to him, didn't need to. Daeho was escorted from the compound, from the organization, from the family name itself. No violence. Something worse for a man who'd built his identity on legacy. Erasure. Derek Marshall was arrested and held for breaking and entering, conspiracy, and violation of an international protection order. He was deported within the week. Federal charges waited for him in Chicago. Park Jae-won's man, the one Hana identified, broke under interrogation within 6 hours. He gave up names, dates, locations. Park Jae-won was arrested at his Gangnam penthouse at dawn, still in his robe, still holding a cup of coffee that shattered on the marble floor when the police kicked in his door. Hana's testimony, corroborated by 14 months of evidence Seojun's team had been compiling, sealed the case. Convicted. Gone. 3 weeks later, Hana spoke in full sentences, short ones, careful ones, like she was testing whether the words would stay this time. They stayed. She asked for pancakes in the morning. She told Naomi about her dreams. She whispered goodnight to her mother's photograph on the hallway table and said, "I miss you," and it was the most beautiful and devastating thing Naomi had ever heard. Naomi's visa was renewed, permanent residency processed through Kang Holdings' legitimate corporate division. Legal, clean, hers. The media moved on. New scandal, new cycle. The restaurant video became a footnote, then a memory, then a story people told at dinner parties about dignity and silence, and the little girl who crossed a room for a stranger. One evening, Seojun led Naomi to the garden. Fairy lights hung between the trees. Hana had helped string them, balanced on her father's shoulders, laughing so hard she nearly fell twice. A small table was set for 3. Candles. Flowers Hana had picked herself, half wilted already, perfect. Hana ran to Naomi the moment she stepped outside. "Close your eyes," she demanded. She was bouncing on her toes, vibrating with the worst-kept secret in history. Naomi closed her eyes. Small hands guided her forward. She felt grass under her bare feet, warm air, the smell of jasmine. Open. Hana held a velvet box in both hands, too big for a ring, too small for anything practical. She thrust it at Naomi with the solemnity of a 6-year-old entrusted with the most important mission of her life. "Open it! Open it!" Inside lay a thin chain with 3 pendants. Black onyx for Seojun, deep red garnet for Naomi, a tiny rose quartz for Hana. Simple, interlocking, a family made not by blood but by choice. Naomi's throat closed. Seojun was on one knee behind his daughter. No audience, no spectacle, just him, raw and certain, eyes locked on hers. "I built an empire on fear," he said, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "You taught me to build something on trust. Marry me, not because I can protect you, because you already protect us." Hannah whispered loudly, "Oh, you're supposed to say yes now." Naomi laughed through tears. "Yes." Hannah threw her arms in the air. "Finally." Seojun rose. He slipped the chain around Naomi's neck and pulled her into a kiss that tasted like salt and promise, and the kind of forever that starts not when things are easy, but when you've survived every reason to leave and chosen to stay. 2 months later, under a late spring canopy of cherry blossoms in a private courtyard in Hanam-dong, they said their vows. Naomi wore white with kente cloth accents woven into the hem, a quiet nod to her grandmother, to her roots, to the parts of herself she'd stopped hiding. Seojun wore a black hanbok with modern lines. Hana, flower girl and ring bearer, scattered petals with such wild enthusiasm that half of them ended up in her own hair and the other half landed on the officiant's shoes. The ceremony blended traditions. A Korean bowing ritual, a jumping of the broom that made Hana shriek with delight and leap so high Seojun had to catch her midair. Vows spoken in English and Korean. When the officiant asked the final question, Hana shouted, "They do!" before either of them could answer. The small gathering erupted. Trusted people, no press, no rivals, no ghosts. At the reception, under string lights in a sky bruised pink with sunset, Hana tugged Naomi's dress. "Mom?" The word was soft, tentative, like she was testing whether it would hold. Naomi's heart stuttered. She knelt on the grass, eye to eye with the girl who had crossed a restaurant in bare feet to hand a stranger a drawing of a woman under a yellow sun. "Yeah, baby?" "Can I call you that? For real?" Naomi pulled her into her arms. "You already have been, in here." She tapped Hana's chest, right over the heart that had been silent for so long and was now so full it spilled over into everything it touched. "And now out here, too." Hannah hugged her so tight her small arms trembled. I love you, Mom. I love you too, brave girl. Seojun watched from a few steps away. He didn't speak. His eyes shone. He didn't need to say a word. Later, when the guests had gone and Hana was asleep upstairs clutching a stuffed tiger and the crayon drawing she'd made that first day, now framed in gold, Naomi and Seojun stood on the balcony overlooking the garden. She leaned against him. The city glittered below them, vast and indifferent and beautiful. We made it, she whispered. We did. She looked up at the stars. I used to think powerful people only took things. Turns out the most powerful thing you gave me was a seat at a table someone else tried to take away. He turned her to face him, and you gave me back my daughter's voice, both of theirs. He glanced toward the house where Hannah slept, and mine. They kissed under the quiet soul sky. Slow, certain. The kind of kiss that doesn't need to prove anything because everything has already been proven, tested, broken, and rebuilt stronger. Somewhere in the city, the restaurant had a new manager. He'd hung a photograph by the entrance. Naomi, Seojun, and Hanna under cherry blossoms, laughing, petals in Hanna's hair. Below it, a small plaque read, Everyone is welcome here. And somewhere in a quiet room, a little girl who'd been silent for 14 months dreamed in full color and woke up with the words on her lips, ready to tell the whole world every story she'd been saving. It started with a drawing. A woman under a yellow sun, and it ended with a family no one expected, built by a child's courage and a stranger's kindness, and a man who learned that the strongest walls aren't the ones you build around yourself, but the ones you tear down to let someone in. And that's where we'll leave them, lovely viewers. Thank you so much for watching till the very end. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, and hit that notification bell for more powerful stories. Your support means everything.